Do you go to church? Do you read Bible?
I read the Bible.
What's the last time you cried?
Some people get addicted to cocaine. My 3-year-old daughter's mom, who I have custody now, developed a very bad drug addiction. I think it meth or something.
Now the fun part, win the storm.
Some people do take things to another level. You're still part of, you're right. I was part of that and I contributed. We're going to talk about some of those things that you said.
No, sure.
You know why? Because some of them were true. You're in Vegas, you're there with a couple thousand guys, but I do look back and recognize that I could have done things a little differently. You start taking a substance that keeps you moving, shaking and moving, shaking and moving. Some people, college students, have a problem with that role. For a while there, that became an issue. Her mom dropped her off on her second birthday and sent me a text and said she's gonna check into rehab, and she didn't come back.
Now the fun part, win the storm. Have you ever made money at Win the Storm per year? Like, everybody knows that you don't make money on conferences. I made money in the last year, actually, after 5 years, and I'm like, I'm done with mine. But have you been profitable?
Yeah, the first 5 or 6 years, it was break even or lost money. The idea wasn't to necessarily make money on a conference, it was to sell traditional SVG products, services, subscriptions. But I think at the last 3 or 4 years, which was really Phoenix, 2019, NOLA, 2020, Dallas, obviously was a blowout, a big one. Those 3 years were money makers, meaning not huge amounts of money, but enough where you're like, it's a business model.
How many people have reached out to you for a free ticket, handout, or free VIP?
Well, everybody. when you're friends with a lot of people, they expect deals. So I think one of the reasons.
Hold on. Out of all people who, attended, how many people actually bought the tickets versus like free passes? And
well, our strategy was probably different than most people. So to me, like when we sold a subscription to SVG University, it always came with a free complimentary ticket, because I felt like the owner, if they're buying your university or you're training for a year, they should get a free ticket as part of the package. And obviously, no one's going to come alone. So an owner's going to either come with a manager or a couple salespeople. So he became a lead magnet to sell more tickets to by giving him a free ticket with his subscription. So we were always selling tickets 24/7, 365 days a year, even right after the conference, by virtue of selling training and providing a free ticket. We had a lead magnet. So a couple months later, when he came to conference time, hey, you got yourself a free ticket here. Why don't you want to bring a couple sales guys? You want to bring a manager? And that might have been one of the reasons we were able to grow. For 9 years, Win the Storm had steady growth up until Dallas for 9 years in a row. That was because of the ticket strategy of giving away one free ticket for every subscription. And in some cases, if it was a big company and they had a lot of salespeople, of course, you give the owner one free ticket, but he'd buy a bucket of tickets for his sales associates or some key managers.
For you personally, what was the best year? What's your favorite year?
There are a lot of favorite years. I mean, Phoenix was good. NOLA was a good show because we came right out of COVID and we were the first ones to open up New Orleans. But for attendees, where we breached close to 7,000 was Dallas.
21?
2021, yeah. Actually, you call it February 2022, but for the 2021 year, yeah.
Favorite speaker of all times?
Oh man, there's some good ones. We had Gary Vee, we had Robert O'Neill, the guy who killed Osama bin Laden. We had Michael Gerber, Robert Kawasaki. I mean, I think the one that I think had the most impact on the industry was probably Gary Vee. And I know not everybody liked him, but there's a lot of guys that came to me, like Jonathan Sherwood, afterwards and said that speech changed his whole way he launched himself, his brand, his business, because he learned about digital marketing. And I heard that from some other people too, meaning I think that year was Vegas, if I recall, South Point, Vegas, Gary Vee. I think that was 2018. I saw an explosion that following year or two of people. You see people like, why are all these roofing contractors in the digital marketing space? Like the YouTube pod, everybody doing the digital marketing thing. There was an uptick of that after 2018. I think Gary Vee had an impact. So he was fun. He's fun to watch. He swears a lot. He connected with the audience. Some people didn't like that.
What about the worst? Someone who you regret getting on the stage, or maybe like disappointed?
I might get a defamation suit, so I got to be careful.
Or maybe like disappointed,
Well,
or maybe like expectations were here and the results were here. You did not.
There were some speakers, when you do large sponsorship packages, sometimes that comes with a speaking opportunity. And so sometimes you're trying to weigh things because you want to
pay to speak.
Yeah, not all of them, but sometimes sometimes you have to. You got to support the show with something. Meaning, like a Gary Vee, Robert Kawasaki, those type of people, you're paying for them to speak. They're outside the industry. They're interesting to watch on stage. They're entertaining because people want to be entertained. Sometimes when you do these larger sponsorship packages, you got to include a 30-minute stage time. You don't have to, but you do it because it helps bring in some sponsor dollars. And some of those people have good content. A couple of them maybe weren't the best content on stage. I wouldn't say they were horrible speakers, but maybe just not a necessity to be on main stage. They should have been in a breakout session.
Can you share a couple stories that you never shared publicly from Windstorm? Something crazy behind the scenes.
Well, you shared a lot of those stories on your YouTube
I'm
channel.
not even talking about negative, but like something. Yeah, I have stories from my conference that kind of behind the scenes.
Well, I think I think you might be going in one direction. Look, when the storm, people watching this right now that maybe never went, or maybe they watched your video about how it was all party and all this. Look, you got to understand the early days of Win the Storm of what this was. You got to go back to 2013. This is when the storm industry was just becoming a definition by itself, an industry, because before that it was a bunch of mom and pops in the wild, wild west, and nobody talked to each other. So the first conference, it wasn't really a conference. It was in Phoenix, Arizona, at a hotel, and it was 50 of my buddies that were storm chasing buddies that got together,
to celebrate,
get together and talk about how to make more money, shooting the shit, going out at night, having some fun, drinking, partying, having a good time. And it was a boys club, okay? And it wasn't I wouldn't even call it a conference and trade show. It was a one-day seminar. The following year, we did it in Phoenix, Arizona again, and it got a little bigger. Maybe it was a couple hundred. And it didn't really blow up until the third one, which was that wasn't even real big, but it was a lot compared to the first two, which was Vegas, 2016. And that's when I named it Win the Storm. Prior to that, it wasn't even called Win the Storm. It was called Win the Game Seminar. It was based off my book. And that's where I started getting people in that I didn't know. But even in 2016 in Vegas, it was still, there weren't a lot of female business owners of roofing companies in 2015. There's a lot now, and I applaud that. But there wasn't a lot then, not in the storm restoration space. So in 2016, we're in Vegas, about 750 or maybe 1,000 people at that one in Vegas. All guys. And this is back, you got to understand, I was just coming out of storm chasing myself. Storm chasing is a different world than retail contracting. You're traveling on a road all the time. I was single, not married. I didn't have a child living with me like I do now. So I was living my life as an entrepreneur, but I was living, I lived by a motto of work hard, play hard. I worked hard and I was responsible in business, but when the business was over, I felt like we should have a good time. And those 2 years in Vegas, 2015, 2016.
Would you say they earned the Win the Storm reputation early on?
Well, when I think about some of the rumors out there and some of the things that you did online, there was a period of time there in Vegas over those 2 years where, you're in Vegas, you're there with a couple thousand guys. There's gentlemen's clubs in Vegas, there's nightclubs, there's the lifestyle, there's gambling. But you're also coming off a 10-year run of storm chasing. And storm chasing itself is a lifestyle of traveling and being on a road. It's lonely. You're around strangers in strange cities. And so it's a lifestyle of what you would probably term a loose lifestyle or a fun lifestyle. And for me, coming out of the military, storm chasing reminded me of the military. You're mobilizing to a strange place or city you've never been to before. You're bringing a bunch of guys together. You're out helping a community, rebuild after a storm or catastrophic event, but you're also away from your friends and family. And so a natural recourse in that environment is to go have a beer, go have some drinks, have a good time, tear it up on the weekends, and come back and work hard on Monday. And so that was a lifestyle that I spent 10 years in. And so for me, when I launched, Win the Storm, and guys coming together in Vegas, the lifestyle didn't change. It was still part of, I don't think that lifestyle is wrong per se. I think it's something you go through as a man, you go through, and eventually you come to a point where maybe that lifestyle is not appropriate. Right now I'm raising a 3-year-old, for example, and that's not appropriate. But
let's talk about it really quick, because one thing is, now you've been in a leadership position as a organizer of major event, and what I want to touch on is bigger problem. Like, first of all, roofing industry in general, we have a lot of drug addicts, alcoholics, right? Like, not educated people, but that's one. But now you raising different people, like young people who make quick money fast, right? And even for people like I'm 40, you're 50, like even when you're established,
52.
Well, back then you were.
It's my birthday today.
Happy birthday!
It's been my birthday on Dmitry's podcast.
Look at that. Would you look at that? But comment below, happy birthday for Anthony. But the reality is, how many people have you seen that are not ready for that? Like I'm talking about young guys. Like, if you take 22-year-old, give him $100,000 and send him to Las Vegas, wouldn't you say it's a recipe for disaster if you don't have a good mentor, if you don't have a good role model in front of you?
Looking back at it now, bringing a couple thousand young men to Vegas, it is a risk in, I think, in any industry for a conference. At that point of what I was doing with my lifestyle, I probably could have, at that point, we're talking 2016, 2017. Could I have been, was I in a leadership position then as starting to organize men in the industry for the first time? Yes, I was. And I probably could have made some better choices as to, okay, what are we doing tonight after the conference or after the award ceremony? New Orleans, I got the largest penthouse, downtown New Orleans. People over having fun, but this is after the conference is over. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, but you're right. If a 25-year-old entrepreneur was to come hang out and he sees different leaders like myself and, having fun, they might think that that's the only thing going on, that's a major part of the lifestyle. To me, it was a work hard, play hard lifestyle. So there's no bad intentions over it. It's just the life I came from.
Well, you did it probably for yourself. You have your friends, your buddies, you celebrating. I've been, actually, years later when I started my conference, I went the same path, like scaled back, but the same thing. Like, first conference, I remember actually first conference. At the end, we have this thing on a stage, and we were drinking a little bit, right? Like White Claw and stuff. And I remember we had the White Claw. I literally had White Claw on a stage. It's first year, I'm on a stage, and people criticized me for it. And rightfully so. And I would, never did it again on the stage later. You adopt, you grow. But what's funny? I was watching CrossFit games early on. So CrossFit as an organization, the sport is like 15 years old, right? You watch early CrossFit games, like get-togethers, like where athletes from all over the country gets in, like wins the prizes for like games. They have a beer chug contest. Like, you do burpees and you do beer chug. And I'm like, even CrossFit, like when it's like, I'm talking about Rich Froning, who is like role model, and he won like later. And I'm watching it because there's a factor. When you get with your buddies, you have one mission, you have one thing in common that all you do. And there's only so much you can consume as far as like knowledge goes. You can't be in the classroom all day and it's like, oh, great, you're a roofer, I'm a roofer too, great. Now what? Now let's have a beer, right? And that's what I feel like in every prayer. But I feel like as a leader, myself, as you as a leader, we have greater responsibility to be careful, and be responsible for the people that we lead. And I was so, like, today, I'm not going to drink with the fans. I'm not going to drink with I'm not going to go to the party. I'm going to say, excuse me, I have places to be. I don't want to influence people in that way. And I want to show them, I want to be a better leader. Because when you have 2,000 people looking at you, you're responsible for them. And I've seen, in those who follow me, the same thing, like what I did. Oh man, that's because of me. They're doing that. And I was not happy with it. So
Well, we had an instance, something and again, you don't necessarily directly contribute to these things, but the environment does, and you have to take some
Are
responsibility.
you talking about
Well, we had an instance in, I think it was 2016, where a guy, he's from Minnesota, Dave Kuntz. He had apparently took some kind of drugs, not around me, it wasn't near me, but it was in Vegas, it was at my event. And he, I don't remember the whole story, but he jumped or fell or was chased by some police, jumped off, he ended up in the emergency room, he almost died.
But I remember it was someone did die from overdose or something too, like at the conference. I don't know, like if you remember or not, but I remember rumors like that.
There was actions that happen in these things that I might not, like Dave, wasn't directly involved in that situation, but it still happened during your show, and you still feel a personal responsibility. It was that year actually that I decided to tamp things down in terms of, the aggressive industry award night party where we rented out the whole second floor of the nightclub of whatever that was in Vegas, and you had 300, 400 guys up there having fun and a VIP bottle. Look, some people look at it, they go, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fun. That's in Vegas. But what happens in that environment, people are drinking and, some people do have drug addiction problems. Some people do take things to another level. You're still part of, you're right. I was part of that and I contributed. So I made a decision that following year to start to tamp some of that stuff down, and by Fort Lauderdale, we didn't really do anything fun like that anymore at the end. But
seems like you did not have anything in Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale.
Nothing happened at Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale was all content, boot camps, and training. Not a lot of fun. But look, there's a learning lesson there. But I also don't want to condescend. There's a lot of condescending, especially in our industry for some reason. More so than I see in other places. I don't want to condescend people that are making those choices on their own, being that I think that, and I don't want to say men because this includes women, I think everybody's going through a bell-shaped curve in their life. And I think, like for me, I wouldn't necessarily go back and change things I did in my life, but I do look back and recognize that I could have done things a little differently. But I lived a certain lifestyle because that's what I came from. I grew up in a lifestyle like that. I grew up a certain way, and I didn't know other things. Okay,
and so you attract people who are similar to that as well.
Yeah, and I still do believe in. I think when you're in your 20s and 30s, work hard, play hard. You should have some fun and make some mistakes. Okay, you can't start off an adult life and live a perfect lifestyle of astuteness in every kind of way. So you're going to make mistakes along the way. Okay, and I'm not taken back from what I said about regret. What I'm trying to say is, I'm never going to sit back and judge people for how they live their lifestyle, because everybody could be judged for something. And I certainly would never, I've made it a point never to say things online about people or gossip. I might say some side conversations to friends, but putting that out there, because A, I don't want that done to me. And B, I just don't think there's time in life to sit and judge others. I think people learn those decisions on their own. And make those decisions when it's appropriate. Now, with that said, there are people, and that's where I've had a little change of heart this last year. I've always looked at, in the past, having fun, work hard, play hard, partying as a cyclical thing. Meaning, if you work hard, you should enjoy life and have fun. That's why we're Americans. We're here to have fun and make money, have fun, and live your life to your fullest and all that stuff. But there are people that have issues, okay, and drug addiction issues and alcohol issues. Now, I still enjoy having a drink or a whiskey once in a while. Peanut butter whiskey. I don't drink every day, maybe once or twice a week. I've never really had a problem with alcohol. I had a little problem at a time period, especially with all the road tours and stuff, of Adderall, okay? Oh. Not a point where I had to go to a hospital or anything for it, but you start taking a substance that keeps you moving, shaking and moving, shaking and moving. Some people, college students, have a problem with Adderall. You start taking something and you could become you inadvertently you're addicted to it or you do it. Now I don't do it anymore, but for a while there, that became an issue. Now there's other people that have other problems with other drugs that some people might call recreational. Smoking some weed might be considered recreational. Some people smoke weed and they can't move off this chair and they're dysfunctional. Some people get addicted to cocaine. Everybody could be addicted to, get addicted to something. So it's not fair to me to say, hey, everybody work hard, play hard, and not acknowledge that there's people out there in pain and something could happen because something you consider recreational, they have a problem, they become addicted to it. And, where that really came to fruition to me was, my 3-year-old daughter's mom, who I have custody now, developed a very bad drug addiction.
Oh, wow.
A really bad one. I think it meth or something. And pursued a lifestyle where she couldn't take care of her daughter, in which case, a year and a half ago, I became a full-time father almost overnight. Not that I wasn't accustomed to being a dad, but being a dad 2 weekends out of the month or having 50% custody with nannies is quite different than taking on a 2-year-old with no full-time nannies, almost overnight out of the blue, and being granted full custody by the courts, saying, hey, you're the last in line, you're the last line of defense.
I want to come back.
So that's where I started realizing that, hey, there's people that have real addictions out there that check people, that affect people's lives around them. And then you start thinking about the things in the past that maybe what I thought was fun or recreational to somebody else could have been life-threatening.
We'll come back to the daughter because it's a big story on its own. I want to ask you about your block list.
I got the longest block list in history.
How big do you think? Do you think you have more people on the block list than on a friend list?
Oh, no. But there's definitely a couple hundred on there, yeah.
I want to ask you.
You just came off the block list.
I did. I made it, guys.
When you put yourself out there online,
100%.
Even if you're perfect, you're always going to have a hater out there of some kind. So
everybody does.
After 10 years in the SVG space, I was out. My brand was out there. I was out there. You're online. There's always some knucklehead or somebody talking about you.
I wanted to ask you about something in particular. So you have a lot of people that you promoted, like your friends list, right? And people who've been on a stage, maybe failed later. People who kind of in your circle. So we have there's two schools here, and I feel like I already know the answer. So if you think about President Putin, right? So it's one type. So Putin has this thing, it's famous saying, like, we are not, pretty much he always has your back. Like if you right now let's say his prime minister or anybody in the Russian government gets exposed for corruption, you can be killed, killer, you can kill a person, whatever. You will never see the jail because you are close to him. Like he will not let you suffer because you are like one of us. That's how I always felt with you. Like for me, if my friend does something unethical, bad, whatever, I'm still gonna be by him, support him, but I'm like, my friend messed up here and we're gonna deal with it, right? I feel like with you, and with SVG as a group, and I've seen it last time as example in Colorado, like one of your guys, David, I believe, when the guy was doing a garage door damage. He got in the news for like bad publicity, right? And I've seen people in at SVG asking that question. It's like, hey, guys, one of you are doing this damage, like stop. And I've seen SVG admins, I don't know who did it, like deleting the comments, like, no, you don't talk bad about us. So I feel like you're more
that was me.
I feel like you're more like Putin. Like if anybody...
That was me, because I believe, look, in America, you're innocent till proven guilty, number one.
Okay.
So you asked me some questions about Steve Soule earlier. I don't look at his books. I don't know. You can listen to a lot of gossip. I know he's a good person, and he probably ran into some cash flow problems. So if somebody, when I was running SVG, I don't run SVG, so I can't do that anymore, but at that time I still was. If somebody was to talk bad, like I always had a unwritten rule, it was actually a written rule on the private SVG page. I don't believe in talking bad about contractors. Now I know you believe in exposing people and bringing out
talk about both sides? So like, would you agree that insurance companies commit fraud and should be exposed, but contractors do it too? I feel like with you, we can talk about insurance, but we cannot talk about contractors.
Because that's just the way it was. I mean, I don't.
So you like Putin. You don't talk about us.
My mission was to help contractors and help raise the reputation of the storm restoration industry and actually define it and bring a group of guys together. My mission wasn't, and there's plenty of other people that have that mission. I mean, the insurance companies, the DAs, the attorney generals, the Dmitrys, whomever. If they want to do that, that's fine, but mine wasn't. So mine purposely was, now there might be some bad contractor apples out there, but you never would have saw the stories about them on my page because they would have got deleted. Why? Because I wasn't a page to spread negative, true or untrue, negative gossip, maybe true gossip. You can find that on other pages. So I was always that page. It doesn't matter if they were my friend or not. Those
So
things
you just wanted to be a safe haven for contractors.
Yeah, because you go to a lot of social media pages in the past and somebody's always talking crap to so-and-so, and you know, another rule was you couldn't sit and shit talk somebody on my page. If you did, you'd get warned or get deleted. So yeah, we used to spend a lot of time deleting that stuff, so it was a place where you wouldn't see that kind of stuff. Now, but so when you mention Dave's name again, I heard about something like that. I haven't talked to Dave in maybe 2 years. I haven't seen him in 2 years, sure. But I know him from Minnesota growing up. Maybe something's true, maybe it's not. But I'm just when I was in control of that page, whether it was him or not, I wouldn't allow that kind of post on our page because I don't know if it's true or not. And in America, innocent until proven guilty. You know, so why sit and post something negative and all this stuff if we don't know for sure 100% if it's true? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
But it was even like it was his injury. He was admitting it. It was constructive criticism, and I feel like even construction criticism is not allowed at SVG, and that's what a lot of people have problem with, because I feel like people. Wouldn't you agree
they can always go to another page, right? It's just the way I ran it. Now the new SVG might allow that stuff. I don't think they monitor it. Maybe they don't monitor as closely, but
is the page part of the When the Storm?
Yeah, they own the page. They own my book.
They own your book.
Imagine writing a book and you don't own your book anymore. Oh. Yeah, win the game.
You sold it.
Well, the book, you know why? The book, you know, the printed book sitting over there. You don't really sell printed books or make money off books, but the you know, in the digital marketing campaign, a free ebook download is a great lead magnet. So if you're going to sell a digital marketing company, you can't not sell your best lead magnet that goes with it. So with that went the book.
Guide me through your nominations, and was your award ceremony, was it a profit center, was it like a sales channel, or was it really about award?
No, the award ceremony is real. I mean, the awards.
Many people claim that it's pay to play, and people say that they paid for their award.
That's not true.
I mean, the rumors, like
no, there's always rumors, but. Look, if you look at the elite contractor award, you know, you can go into storm restoration industry, you can't buy an elite contractor. You know who the three top, you know, you look at some of those top people, elite contractor back in the day, you know, Precision, CMR, who's the other big ones, Linear. I mean, there's only a handful of storm contractors that could be considered in the top 10 to even be nominated. So you can't just, you know,
of course,
some guy around a $5 million company can't say, hey, I want to be nominated for a elite contract. It's not possible. So, you know, once they're in that award space of the three nominations, you know, it used to be based on voting, and there was a clock for votes until the last 2 years. And the reason we changed and got rid of the voting is because you could clock votes digitally. You can take a post and say, hey, and send us to all your networks, hey, vote for me, vote for me, vote for me. And somebody could inadvertently not actually be an elite contractor or take the high growth contractor. You're either high growth, which means your revenue is growing fastest because based on X, which is your revenue in the last 3 years based on a growth rate. So it's silly to do votes for something that if you're popular, you would get voted in out of a three top nominees. So when we changed out of votes, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, that might have been when some of the rumors started. Say, why don't you do the open votes anymore? Because once you get to the three nominees, if you have a lot of friends and you're popular, it's easy to win that award because you just send it to your friends and you're not really the high growth contractor. You're not really X. And so we did make some changes there, and that may be where some of those came in, but a straight pay to play, no. Now, I will say this, if you got nominated for elite, if you got nominated for high growth, if you got nominated for the best attorney, we would hit you hard up. Yeah, to bring all your people, and you know, hey, don't you want to have all your people sitting in elite VIP? You're nominated, you're going to be on stage, you're going to be talked about. Oh yeah, so
from that perspective, it is.
It might have perceived like, well, yeah, they brought 30 sales guys there and they bought the sponsorship package and they also won, but it was actually we were pushing on. We were very, you know, we were very hardcore on the sales aspect. Meaning, look, if you're going to be nominated for an award, don't you want all your salespeople here and your key managers and your wife and all? Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's do a nice VIP package for you. So some of that can come from perception, but a straight pay to play to win, no.
Last conference was at your lowest point. Here's the rumor that I heard. Not the rumor, story, I guess, from mutual friends, that it was your lowest point. Tell me how much from this is true and just guide me through the process. So you lost a lot of money at last winter storm, complete failure. You hit the rock bottom and then you found Jesus through it. And you literally got baptized about the same time or close to it, but it was where you hit the bottom and you...
Well, there's a lot of moving parts to that.
Yeah.
So gossip's one thing. I'll tell you the straight deal. So Winter Storm, as you know, grew 9 years straight. And then the pillar year was Dallas. I mean, we had Jimmy Johnson, Herschel Walker on stage. We made the front page of Dallas News, 7,000 attendees. It's hard to, a business goes up for 9 years. Nothing goes up forever, you know. Everything goes like this eventually. So eventually there was going to have to be a dip. That dip was Fort Lauderdale. But why did Fort Lauderdale? Why did we not get the attendees? It was something. It was less than 2,000, maybe 1,500 attendees. So to go from 7,000 to 1,500 attendees.
I mean, watching videos was even less than that. Like our conference was 1,500.
Paid tickets was 1,500.
I see.
Do they all come and show up at the same time? No. Did so-and-so do an event down the street? I think Sam Taggart steal 100 for something on the first day. Yeah. Did so-and-so, John Seneck or whatever, do another event at the hotel across the street and take a couple? I mean, people were also doing some sabotage, you know, to
why
bring people.
all of that happened like in one place?
That's part of, I think that's part of business competition. People do stuff. I mean, that happened a couple years ago. Sam did that 2 or 3 years ago at another conference, brought some people across the street because he couldn't get the ballroom he wanted mine at the last minute, whatever. That's just part of business. But that's not what caused the problem there. That's just minuscule. What happened was, if you go back to Emery, okay, I had taken custody of her about 7 months prior to the Fort Lauderdale conference. So you have to understand what was going on with me and SVG to understand why the attendees were low. Meaning, I shut the SVG off, the 16,000 square foot office down in Arizona. I had shut down 3 to 4 months prior to Fort Lauderdale because I had to, because I had taken custody of the Emery, and I had to be at the house all the time instead of doing what I usually do, which is micromanage that office to like a T.
So guide me through that process. Like how do you have this child and how did it change you? Like,
her mom dropped her off on her 2nd birthday and sent me a text and said I need to be prepared to take her, that she can't handle her anymore and she's going to check into rehab. And she didn't come back.
You were okay with it?
I mean, I was...
Like if someone told me 5 years ago that...
I took full control, but I wasn't prepared, meaning, I was trying to tell you, there's a difference between having shared custody a couple weekends out of the month where you're set up with the nanny or the mom or the sister coming to help. You know, I'm a single guy, keep in mind. So this is, remember old Anthony we were talking about earlier?
Yep.
You know,
I had a wild man, Dan Bilzerian style.
10,000 square foot house in the base of Paradise Valley, and a 16,000 square foot office, and I had a lifestyle in place, which wasn't raising a toddler 24/7. Now a 2-year-old girl is not like a 10-year-old kid.
And you had a girl before.
You have to sleep them at night. You're up till 2 in the morning. You have to feed them, change their diapers. I mean, this was new to me. And I didn't have full-time nannies in place. So there was a period of about 2 or 3 months where I'm taking care of a 2-year-old girl. And then KPIs at the office started going like this. And so what I did is I went up and had a talk with the team up there and said, look guys, if you guys aren't going to perform because I'm not here micromanaging everything, I will shut this office down. And that's the mindset I was in. I was in a very different mindset. And of course the KPIs didn't improve. So I walked in one day and a week later I shut that off. You know, I kept the Navy SEAL team in place, a Navy SEAL team of, but I let go of, I probably let go of 15 people in 1 week, just like that.
Just so you could be stay-home dad?
Well, because they were overhead and they weren't performing, and I didn't want to manage that situation. I was very upset about my situation. I was upset about that they weren't performing to KPI because I wasn't there, and I was angry. And so when you're angry, sometimes you do drastic things. I'm known to do very drastic things. They didn't believe I would shut the whole office down, and I did. And so I kept my Navy SEAL team, which is about 4 or 5 people. And that small group of people, we continued to run the Fort Lauderdale conference. But for 6 months before that conference, I used to have a marketing machine in place, a call center, videographers. That whole machine is what produced sales and tickets and excitement. And I was sitting at home taking care of a 2-year-old with 4 or 5 people working from home.
That's the most powerful 2-year-old in the storm restoration industry for the past couple of years. Wow.
And then what happened during that time is I went through, you go through some personal changes. You're like, first of all,
what was going through your mind?
Well, at first you feel like a victim, like, how did this happen to me? And then you realize she's the victim. And then you're the only support system for her. I'm in Arizona. I got no family.
No relationship with the mom whatsoever?
No, she was gone. Never checked into rehab like she said she was going to. Disappeared. Didn't show up to court. There was a court case, an emergency court case, because I had to still win full custody. It doesn't, that doesn't happen all the time very quickly. But because of the way that she was, dropped off, abandoned, the mom didn't show up. The mom didn't report in for a hair follicle test. She never showed up to court. She showed up on video and then it didn't show up to court. The judge was like, 100% custody, sole legal 100%. And so I'm like, I took that, that was like, most of my friends that have been through custody battles that have a lot of money say that to get that would have cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they'd get lucky to get 50-50 because of the dad. And I got it like this, but that also became with responsibility, meaning I was, her last line of defense. She didn't have family. I didn't have family in Arizona.
Did you know about this child before 2 years old? Like, were you part of
I was involved. I was involved in her life, but it was on the weekends, Saturday overnight and Sunday. So I was set up a little bit for that, but not being able to work during the week when you're used to being in full-fledged into what you do, and now caring for a baby. And the nannies I had I came on the weekend to help wasn't the type of nanny that could stay overnight, put him to sleep and do all that stuff. So I had to learn all that stuff.
So now you have to do the
I know how to rock a baby. I know how to change diapers. I know how to deal with eczema, diaper rashes, stomach problems.
And she has a drug addiction.
I should do a course on that. Yeah, and so I also, so during that time, I also came to the conclusion that, drug addiction has some huge impacts. It's not just having fun, and not everything's recreational for everyone. Okay, and sometimes it affects people's lives. Affected mine, affected the little girl's life. So leading forward, you have to understand, why did Fort Lauderdale not have the attendees? Well, we didn't really put the marketing and the sales machine behind it. It was already in place and contracted, so we had to do the conference, and but we didn't have that huckspot. I didn't do a road tour. I wasn't out on the road selling tickets, in the Sprinter. I wasn't doing all that stuff because I was at home and I was spending most of my time dealing with that and dealing with custody. Now, during that same time, leading up, I think it was February 2023, before the conference, I did a pre-walkthrough in Fort Lauderdale. You mentioned the baptism thing. And Jeff Richfield caught me. Over the years, Jeff's he's one of those guys always shows up in the weirdest places, at my conference, like in the gym or the bathroom or something. He goes, "Hey man, I want to pray for you. And I was kind of like, "Okay, Jeff, let's do it." Usually, back in the day, I was usually hungover. He's like, "I want to pray for you." And so this time he caught me, where was it? I think it was in a gym or something in Fort Lauderdale. It was at this resort hotel. It was before the conference, about a month. It was in February, just like now.
So it was before?
It was a year ago today. No, it was a year ago today.
Okay.
Yeah. And I had already won custody of Emery, and things were starting to get a little more normalized, but I still didn't have a great nanny system in place. The conference of the month, I was stressed. You know how it is. You're stressed out a month before. Your attendees might be low, but you still got to do the show.
And months before, you have like 80% of tickets comes like last 2 weeks.
Yeah. So we're doing the walk. We always do the walkthrough, and then we do the follow-up, the month before. So there's different people in that were part of the show. Jeff was, and he said, "Hey, I want to pray for you." I said, "Yeah, maybe, you know what, Jeff? Maybe I should actually, maybe we should." And we were happened to be behind the resort, and it was kind of rainy outside, and we were by the ocean in Fort Lauderdale. He goes, "Why don't you let's walk down?" There was really nowhere because I wouldn't want him to like pray in public where people could, because he'll just pray right out in front of people. You're sitting there going, people looking at you, and he's praying. You're a little self-conscious. I was a little So I said, let's walk down by the ocean. So you walk down by the ocean, and then it wasn't a traditional baptism, so to say, like maybe they do in church, but they, he dunked me in the ocean, and there was a moment.
How did you feel? Like, did you feel changed?
Not like you got out of the water and felt like a new person, but I felt a connection, and that was probably the first time in a long time. But it was very brief. It was enough. It was a flicker.
How did your life change after that?
It got worse.
It got worse.
Yeah, the next couple months
It
got worse.
really is. You're going to be under attack after that.
Nothing magical happened right after that. But like I said, there was a flicker of connection, and then a lot of things got worse. It just a lot of things happened. So many things happened. That's when I also actually made a decision. We had the conference. The attendees were low, but I knew that was going to happen anyways.
How much money did you lose on that event?
On Fort Lauderdale? I actually didn't lose money on Fort Lauderdale.
You didn't?
No. Because once you get really good in the conference space, it's not always about attendees. Where the revenue actually comes into place is exhibitor booths.
But you pitched a lot of vendors.
Well, we filled every vendor. The exhibitor floor was full.
Yeah, but not the attendees. But that's why.
Exhibitor floor was full, and we had sponsorships. We had sponsorship packages, and those.
Because I remember we have a lot of mutual vendors, and I've heard so many times like never coming back, never coming back, never coming back. Because
what about the first 9 years?
Exactly.
Okay, so
but some it could be first.
Some of those same exhibitors enjoyed the ride of the first 9 years and met all kinds of new clients. And so I just happened to have a year where, unfortunately, it wasn't what it should have been, But it is what it is. That's business. Nothing in life goes up forever, and we all think it will, but eventually you take a dip.
Talking about the U.S. economy now.
Eventually something takes a dip. So, but I will say that and everybody likes to see a fall of something going up eventually. I took a fall. Wind to Storm was successful. 9 years of solid growth. The last one was not so successful on attendees, and it took a dip, and it is what it is. And a lot of it had to do with a personal issue because we couldn't drive that sales and marketing machine for that 6 months prior. So looking back on it, I'm actually happy that it all happened the way it did. And it's weird how that happens because at the time you're going, oh man, I gotta, you start realizing that maybe your time is better spent now in a different area. Maybe my passion isn't the same. The other thing
Are you burned out from the conference and roofing space?
Absolutely, yeah. So I started floating the idea before Fort Lauderdale. I went through a LOI after Dallas with CERC, which was a publicly traded solar company that was going to buy SVG, WTS. So I don't think it was any story that I was already entertaining this idea back in Dallas. Because truthfully, I'll just be honest, after Dallas, although Dallas was record, I was feeling inside that I want to talk about something different. I don't want to talk about roofs, insurance claims, Xactimate, Wind to Storm. When you start in your own head, start going, your feelings aren't the same anymore. You got to remember, I've been in the industry 22 years. I started as a sales guy in 1999, was a contractor for 12 years till 2012. Then I was SVG for 10 years. That's 20 years of talking about the same stuff.
It gets boring.
I'm sure you experience that yourself sometimes.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I love the industry, and it did well by me, and I think I did some great things for the industry. And I did well from the industry, both as a salesman, as a contractor, learned a ton about film and digital marketing in the SVG space, conference. I'd never done a conference before. I learned as I went. But it was time, and I knew this after Dallas, and I knew things don't go up forever, and all of a sudden that thing happened,
Was it hard to let go? Tell me about new ownership. How did sale go through? What's next for Wind to Storm?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, so we get through Fort Lauderdale. And I was still floating the idea, there was conversations going on that it was time for me to sell, meaning I was interested in talking to people. I didn't advertise it. I didn't hire a broker. I didn't hire an attorney. I call it a whisper campaign. I talked about this in Exit Strategy Bootcamp. You don't always have to hire a broker and hire these attorneys. If you have a business model that's successful or a proven success, there's people probably around you in your industry that might want to buy it. It could be your competitor. It could be someone.
I have that right now.
Yeah.
I have like 5 people talking to me to buy mine.
Yeah. And sometimes it's the strangest things that come up. I mean, I had after Fort Lauderdale, people were like, oh, Fort Lauderdale bombed, it was slow. But I still had a 9-year history, not only real history of brand.
The brand is there.
But financials. If you looked at my financials in the last 3 years of Wind the Storm, they're pretty, and SVG combined, pretty incredible from a profit standpoint. Digital marketing is a lot of profit once you create all the content, especially in an online university. But I just didn't have the passion to run it anymore. I mean, especially dealing with the.
Did you sell SVG too?
Yeah,
so
the whole thing.
So you don't have light speed, nothing.
So within 3 months after Fort Lauderdale, keep in mind what was going on here, where we're at here. So this property here was I bought this property to be a rehab and flip, and it was going to be a course inside SVG.
Give me this story really quick because I want to understand how you got this.
So this property, after Hurricane Ian hit, this was hit here with Cat 4, I think Cat 5 winds. That steel door down there was bent in. That roof was ripped off. This was filled with water. This is all water, and you could see the sky through here. So this property, this property is this is a 920,000 policy limits claim we're sitting in right now. Farmers insurance. So I bought the property from Tammy, the homeowner, with the claim assigned. And the whole reason I did it, believe it or not, was to create, wasn't meant to live here. It was to do a rehab and flip. I was going to say, well, I'll get the insurance money. That'll actually pay me back for the property because I knew it was going to be a big claim. I'll fix it. I'll make, I'll get some of these other trades done for less money. So I was thinking in my head, and I'll make a course and film it all, and I'll have something new for SVG University, something nobody's ever seen before. Rehab and flip using a claim to buy the property. I even created a course thumbnail. I thought this will give new juice. This will give new juice to SVG University. That was my idea because I needed something new. You always need something new, otherwise you're talking about the same old stuff. And so that was the plan. This is before Fort Lauderdale. This is back in December, right? Well, after the Fort Lauderdale thing, and then some things happened to Arizona, where the moms showed up unexpectedly.
Moms?
Mom. From Emery's mom. Yeah. Meaning, showed up like through the window at 3 a.m. in the morning, trying to sneak in the house, showing up in a U-Haul trailer in front of the house, going through whatever she's going through with her addiction problems. And I just thought it wasn't safe, showing up like that wasn't safe for Emery to be out there. It wasn't, it was drama for most people. For me, I was just like, you know what? What if I wasn't here? What if she took her? I don't know. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to go move into that house out in Florida. And at the time, I was starting to rebuild it. There was a lot of work going on here.
That little girl literally have you moved here. What a powerful little girl.
We moved here because of her. We moved her here. We moved here in literally right after the Fort Lauderdale conference. Probably within 30 days, we moved here. And I shut my deal. I shut everything down there. Again, left a little Navy SEAL team, about 3 or 4 people. Didn't know I was selling the company, but I was starting to get some LOIs and some interest. But I moved here to get her out of that environment. And quite honestly, I didn't have any family there. And when you're raising a 2-year-old girl, the 4 or 5 cool guy friends you got in town, they're not hanging out with you anymore, changing diapers, because back a couple months ago they're playing pool, having fun, coming over to your nice pad, hanging out. Now you got diapers and baby food, and so I realized I had no family.
Delmedico, the father. I'll be damned, man.
So we move here. This will get into your answer here. We're rehabbing a property, trying to get the roof on. There's shrink wrap on the house, dealing with the farmer's insurance stuff. And then I started looking at this helicopter hangar, and I'm like, okay, I can't go find an office right away. I might sell the company. I don't know yet. I got no money because I put all the money to buy the house. You buy the house in cash. That's the other problem. You can't buy a house with a mortgage that's got an open claim with no roof, except shrink wrap. So you got to buy, to get this deal done, I had to buy it in cash. And then I thought man, there's no way they can't pay out for this. I mean, there's water everywhere. I mean, they're going to pay out. I'm going to settle right away, and I'm still waiting to get paid. It's a year and a half later. I'm still waiting. Now they paid out $300 or $400, but it's not, $920,000. There's still another $400 they haven't paid, and that's an appraisal right now. And it's me. Like, you'd have thought I would have had this crushed a year ago.
So nothing is guaranteed.
So I really feel for the homeowners here, because if it's me, and they knew who I was, maybe that's why they're giving me pain. They knew I was SVG. The farmers, they know who I am. But anyways, we're out here. It's 2 months after the conference. It's April. I'm trying to rebuild this thing. I literally have no cash left because I dumped it all into this. And I'm like, I got to turn this into something where I can do what I do to make money, because I can't. I didn't even have a nanny set up here. I didn't really get the nannies in place here until maybe a month ago properly. Where I have coverage. And so I started designing this place, saying, okay, well, if I'm going to shoot here, I made this for me. Then I started realizing other people could use it too. You got podcasts, the speakeasy. So this now turned into my office, and then rejuvenated my motivation to launch MVG Studios, which is where we're sitting now. But that didn't all happen right away. There's a process. And SVG, I got a couple LOIs from some guys on WTS SVG, Josie Parks and Larry Janesky. It was a conversation with Josie, and I took a trip up to Larry Janesky's office and up there in Connecticut, and he's like on 28 like acreage of. You talk about contractor university. It's called Contractor Nation. It looks like a college university of buildings everywhere. He's got roofing franchises. He's got basement refinish franchises. He's got dealers. He's got his own conference that people come in there just for his dealers. And he's got an entrepreneur. It's not Storm. It's retail, but it's just a really good entrepreneurship platform for business. A really smart guy. I mean, and spent a couple days up there, and we were just kind of feeling each other out. And him and Josie, presented me with an LOI, and we went back and forth. And they see, I had two other ones I was looking at.
So how is Janesky involved in SVG?
He's part owners with Josie.
He's part owner.
Oh yeah.
So it's not just Josie.
No. And I thought, it's Josie and Larry, and they go back years.
Yeah.
Larry's an early mentor of Josie's.
Yep.
And Josie's making all kinds of moves right now. He bought another
Total
tech
home.
company. Yeah. He bought another $100 million company, and I don't know if they're partners or not, but they're creating some really interesting stuff. And I think from the retail side, like where you come from, you probably get along well with Larry. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really have a storm thing. He gets it. Josie understands the storm more, but he can bring a lot of retail things into. And I think they're making plans for that down the road through the new SVG platform, to bring all this other stuff that Larry already has to really provide that contractor, maybe that storm guy who's doing nothing but storm, all these other avenues where he can make money on that same customer, whether it's basement refinishing, air duct systems. I'm trying to remember all the stuff he's got. He's got so many different opportunities up there. Yeah, the basement, roofing, all kinds of foundation.
Like 50 patents.
Yeah, I got his air humidifier. I got his air purifiers in my house because Emery has asthma. Like, they make them right there in Connecticut. So I bought. They're amazing. Her asthma issues went away because of them. So she's got so many things. So I think there's going to be it's a great marriage with them, because they can bring things that I could never have done back in the past. And Josie's a stand-up guy, and I think people are understanding his brand and what his vision is with the new WTSG, and they're getting a good response from it, and more power to them. And so it just made sense for me at that time. I think they got a really good deal.
Oh, they bought you at the lowest. You should have sold them after the Dallas.
Exactly. But it was a good deal for me too, and it got me out of a. I mean, I don't know if I haven't been down to zero, but in a long time. I've always been good. So when you're down to zero, and you're living on a farm that you bought, that you're stuck rebuilding with a 3-year-old, and you're at zero, and for the first time you're looking at the price of socks down the street. Never did stuff I didn't notice. Like, you become different.
You feel like a single mom who works at McDonald's.
Oh yeah, you become different. So That sale helped. You know, I spun off the solar division. That was a little smaller. That was only a 2-year-old company, but just magical things started happening. Those two things were magical, I think. And then so was getting the ERC tax credit thing from the federal government. There's things that happened systematically here now in the last 6 months that were, some people would call it winning lottery tickets every other month. Not lottery tickets like gregarious amounts of money, but things that right in the nick of time they happened to allow me to rebuild this or do this or put that roof on. Because again, I still waiting on a big chunk of money from that insurance payout on this property that I thought I would have had a year ago, or I wouldn't have been in this. But then you start looking at all this going, wow, but if that didn't happen, this wouldn't happen. And if Fort Lauderdale would have been good or mediocre, I probably would have never sold. And if I wouldn't have got custody of the baby, Fort Lauderdale never went mediocre. And if I wouldn't have sold, I wouldn't launch MVG Studios. If I wouldn't launch MVG Studios, I wouldn't be going to Eagle Pass, Texas in 2 weeks to launch episode 4 for Unconstitutional. And I wouldn't have met this investor on the film. And all of a sudden you realize that all these pain points are actually things that made you get a little stronger, better, move in a new direction.
Let's talk about MVG Studios. What's with your obsession with a TV production? What happened to Contractor Rescue? It was your first take. It was high quality. What went wrong? And how MVG Studio is going to be different from Contractor Rescue?
Contractor Rescue is just a fun reality show to get brand awareness for SVG and my
so it
products.
Wasn't like long term?
No, yeah, that was just a YouTube thing. That was never meant to go monetize, for example.
What about Unconstitutional? Like
Unconstitutional is quite different. That's a documentary I started shooting during COVID, and what I call the unconstitutional lockdown of America.
What's the end goal? Are you trying to sell it to like Netflix or?
No.
What are you trying to do with it?
So I have 3 episodes shot right now. One was Arizona, the other was Chicago. This is during COVID. The other one was Minneapolis. So I caught when 148 buildings burned down. I was there filming stuff and talking with people. People forgot about that. And a lot of people don't know what really happened there. And so we caught some very interesting things. But the main goal of the documentary is to remind Americans, especially young ones, what our constitutional rights are, because most don't even know. Like freedom of speech was taken away. The right to assemble was taken away by, in Chicago. I experienced that myself. The right to express grievance to your government was taken. These are all things in the Bill of Rights. The right to go to church was taken away. So these are things that state and city governments don't have the right to take away from you. And yet it happened in broad daylight, and everybody went, oh, okay, that can't ever happen again. Now, so fast forward now into what's going on right now, you got POTUS elections coming up. You got constitutional crisis at the border between the state and federal government. Episode 4 is right now in America. We're involved in all kinds of crazy wars. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff going on right now to capture a moment. So we now fast forwarding to episode 4, and we're going to shoot that. The first filming is going to start in 2 weeks at Eagle Pass, Texas. We're heading to the border.
Who's paying for it? Who are you selling it to?
I've paid for everything so far. So I'm in probably, traveling and filming during COVID. I had videographers in place. I had the Sprinter. So maybe that's $500,000 or whatever. I don't even know, of time and stuff in the field, but it's something I'm just passionate about. I have a film proposal out right now to a couple investors to take, I'm not asking for a lot, $1 million for 49% of Unconstitutional. That just finances the road tour and a final editing, a little cinematography on episode 4, and to polish up the first 3 episodes. There's still a little polishing that you have to do on them. And then get it to digital streaming. And digital streaming I know how to do. That's a landing page, download an episode, $9.99, slide your credit card here based off a trailer. That's the space I just came from. I already know how to do that. And that's what I plan on doing. So you see scan for tickets on the bus. I have no idea how to take it to theaters. I have no idea how to do international film rights, all that. So this one investor that's looking at the film understands the space. He's one of the largest investors for Sound of Freedom by Angel Studios. He's the reason they became what they became. He was here last Friday, Exit Strategy Boot Camp, to check me out, due diligence, and came to the Roaring 20s party. He's older. He only came for a little bit, but that's not a done deal yet, but
You're taking your chances.
He's thinking about it, and if it ain't him, it's going to be somebody else. And so I'm not asking for a gregarious amount of money. It's just enough to really get on the road and then finish the 4 episodes, or finish do episode 4 and then polish up the first 3 episodes. But once that's done, I can do streaming on my own. Digital download, landing page, release, $9.99, da-da-da-da. And once we show ground movement, that means revenue, interest, trailers, social media. That's everything you see on a whiteboard up there, right there. It's a plan. He can then take it. Now he'd be a 49% partner. Now he can take it to a theater or another buying group or the international and say, hey, this thing's, here's the trailers, here's the 4 up. They're actually downloading episode 1 right now. It's July 4, 2024, and they're creating pre-sales. So it's pre-sales that I'm going after. And I'll do this without the investment. I'm going to do this anyways. It just would happen a lot faster with some extra cash. Now you have a business model that's showing traction, and that's when you sell it. So a lot of people sell movies. I did a little bit of research. I've never done this before, but I've done a little, they write a concept for a movie and they go sell it to Hollywood. And you might be in a film, you might not. They own it. You might get a chunk of money. You sell it to Netflix, yada, yada, yada. We're not doing it that way. If you show proof of concept on the ground and be willing to get on the ground and wrap your sprinter and get out on the streets and do podcast and sell it on the streets at the street level, you're talking 20, 30x versus 2 or 3x because you got a proven street model. So I don't know if anybody's ever done that before, but I'm going to sell it that way. I'm going to prove it on the streets first through digital downloads, and then either through him or somebody else, then flip it up and do a larger sale, kind of like the roofing companies we talked about. You got the checker game going on, we'll do the checker game on our own, and then play the bigger chess game later. I mean, I don't know how it's all going to play out, but I know that it's something I'm meant to do. And I think with what's going on in America right now, there's all kinds. It doesn't matter what side of what party you're on. There's a problem in America right now, and there's a lot of problems. And somebody's got to get out there, start talking about it, and somebody needs to remind people what that Constitution is. I swore an oath to the Constitution as a military veteran. I was willing to die for it at one time. You don't make a lot of money as a soldier. You make like $1,500 a month to go die and carry a weapon and kill people. And so if you do that because you believe something in the Constitution, which I do, and I think a lot of people forgot about what that means, and they need to be reminded on both sides. It's not a Republican or Democrat thing. It's an American thing. And so I hope that attracts the investment I need to do it. I think it will, because so far every time I move in that direction, it seems like the right thing to do. So I'm not worried about that. I haven't really figured out.
You feel like it's your calling?
Yeah, I really do.
MVG Studios, is it a cross in the studios?
A little cross right here. Yeah.
What's the story behind that?
Well, that's partly, you asked me earlier, about the baptism experience, although it might not have been a full baptism, but I believe that.
Do you go to church?
I haven't been to church yet.
Do you read Bible?
I read the Bible. I started reading the Bible.
Do you have a spiritual mentor?
I do.
Who mentors you?
John Lobb.
I met him at my church in Minnesota.
Oh, really?
When you come back to Minnesota, go to
Johnny Inspired is his online name. Johnny Inspired.
Eagle Brook Church in Minnesota, the best church around. I've been to many churches. I met him like a month ago, like randomly. It's my church. I go there every Sunday, and I see John. Like, John, what are you doing here? Yeah, like he was right.
He comes here like every other week for a day or two.
Yeah, so
I haven't. There's some around here. I'm just now getting to the point where we can actually.
Eagle Brook, my church. So they do live broadcast every Sunday. I'll send you the link. You're gonna like it. Very good preaching. Like not like, you'll see. It's different.
Yeah, we're just getting to the point now here where we can probably do something like that, because like Emery's not going to sit through a church service. She's
online is awesome. Like even my girls, I have 5 kids. 2 of the girls. One of the girls is in the ministry, like sitting with the kids. So she comes to church with us, but she has to sit, like being in a nursery or whatever. And then she comes home and she watches service online because she misses the service because she's serving with the little kids. And she comes home and she has to watch it. We told her, if you want to serve, you still have to listen to the message and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's like 1 hour. It's great. And if we travel, if we're not there on Sunday, I'll watch it online as well. It's very cool.
Check it out.
Yeah.
That's next. I got to figure out where to go around here and all that. There's been a lot of messaging here.
It's a process.
There's been a lot of messaging at this place right here.
I'm pretty sure.
This is a unique property. Let me tell you. I put that. I was hesitant about putting that on there because I don't want to be the fish guy. You know, the guys that put the fish in the logos, and you know, I don't preach to people. I don't.
But it's a statement. Even
Well, it's a statement that he has something involved in what I'm doing here. So I want to make sure that he gets credit for that. But it's not meant to, like, you know, preach to people from my point of view, or attract using a Christian message to get more business and all that. It has nothing to do with that. That's just something I feel like I owe back to him.
What's the last time you cried?
Oh, geez. Last time I cried. Is Isabella in here? It's probably in the backyard here one night.
What about? What happened?
Well, it was at that 0 point. Remember I told you there was a time, several months ago, when you're at 0, and you look up at the sky and you start saying things to the sky and the stars, and bad things and good things and wondering things. Yeah, it was a interesting night.
Wow.
But that's also when I got a little more connected the second time, and then things started happening. So it wasn't just crying, it was a lot of yelling, crying, screaming. Thoughts in your head, crazy thoughts.
Give advice to someone in the industry who may be at the top right now. You've seen highs and lows. Give advice to maybe some young sales rep who feels like, you know, he's on top of the world right now.
Well, nothing goes up forever. No matter how good you are in business, no matter how motivated you are, it's always going to do this. And everybody at the top, you feel like it's going to last forever. You feel like you have money forever. But it's always, something's going to happen. It's going to dip. And when it does, what matters is what you do at the dip. Because the dip is usually what brings you to a higher level later on. Meaning you might be like this, you think, oh my God, my life's over. My business is ending. You're down here. And that dip was necessary for you to go like this. You know what I mean?
I just finished a Tim Grover winning book. He talks about it. He said every time you win championship, you go like that boss that took you to the top, immediately like you're in heaven, you won. And the boss takes you right back to hell right after it. And that's the only way you're gonna get back up there. And it's just how it works. I agree with it.
Dips are what make us stronger, but you know, while you're going down, it's emotionally, it's horrible.
Actually, let's go back to Win the Storm. You started something that I personally took from you, and I carry that torch. You started a debate, famous debate, hoteling versus
hoteling versus Badger.
What's your real relationship with those two people today and before? Because so many people say it was not real, this and that. Like, give me the debate story.
Sure. I was always looking for something unique, you know, you know how it is, to get these guys in the industry and gals come together. You got to do something different or weird every year, or you know, there's enough conferences out there. If you don't do something weird, no one's going to come. So I was always on the lookout for that. So Badger was the hated attorney that put contractors out of business in the state of Texas. You know, he's got a reputation. I found out Badger was talking about me in 2016 at the Wind Conference. Someone sent me a video. It's called the Wind Conference or something. It's a bunch of attorneys and PAs, and then also insurance people. And he put a video up in front of people of me and Bella Mia. When Bella Mia was 10, I had a little video on YouTube that said, "So easy a 9-year-old could do it." It was my estimating program.
I remember that.
And it was innocent. It was easy to use to do an estimate to make sure that you had the right profit margin on a pre-cap and how overhead and profit would add to your profit margin. It's just business. He took that video and put it up in front of all these people, hundreds of people, and said, "That's the problem with the industry. He's teaching them how to do fraud." And I heard about this. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? So somehow I got his email and phone number, and I sent him a message. I said, "I heard you put a video of my daughter up, da-da-da-da-da." And he him and hawed about it, said, "Oh, well, I was just showing, you know, that, you know, you're talking about overhead and profit, and you're, you know, trying to make more money off the insurance company." I said, "Yeah, that's what entrepreneurs do. And if you're overhead and profit and they get it, their profit margin goes up, and most of them don't even understand what that means. I'm showing that's what, so what?" And so in that conversation, I think he felt a little defensive and bad. I said, why don't you come and let's discuss it on stage at my conference? I said, because I don't have anything to hide about it. It's called business. But in a nicer way. And then we started he kind of changed his tone and yada yada. And so we agreed initially it was supposed to be me and him debating or discussing this thing on stage. And then I met John that year just through a referral. He wasn't well known in the policyholder attorney space in our industry in 2015. I mean, I didn't know who he was, but I knew Merlin and all these other guys that came to our show. Because he won a big lawsuit in Sandy. John did, a huge one, class action lawsuit, and then was in New Orleans, but he wasn't really in the space that I was in of storm restoration. He was in the space, but not in the same space. And I met him, and he's got a booth. And then I learned about what he did and turned over in Sandy, which was like 130,000 claims that were fraud and exposed engineering fraud.
Yep.
And I thought, wow, this guy, it's not just a civil lawsuit. This guy actually did some serious stuff. And so when it got time for the Badger debate, I thought it'd be more appropriate to have two attorneys up there. So I was up there with them, kind of moderating and throwing some things in. But two attorneys talking probably better than me and an attorney. And so then John took that over, and then he ran. They did that debate for another 2 years because it was popular. People like to hear the insurance company and the policyholder attorney don't discuss these issues. And I thought it was fun. I think after 3 years, it got a little played out. I think the last time they did it was Dallas. But for that first 1 or 2 years, people love that first one. People love that.
Well, what's your relationship with both of them today?
John, I haven't talked to much in the last, 6 months to a year. I think I text him once in a while. I'm sure he's busy, probably working claims and stuff down in New Orleans. I just haven't talked to him much. I've been in my own fog of war here last year. Badger, haven't talked to him probably in a year.
To finish the video, give me personal advice. Anything?
Personal advice? I would spend less energy on, from what I saw your teach. That's another reason I reached out. I saw you said preach love, not hate. So I thought maybe he's moving in a new direction. But I would probably spend less time. Look, I talk shit about people too. I gossip, but I do it like this between some friends. But I would be concerned opening yourself up for, I would spend less time and energy focused on trying to talk smack about people, because you got some great followers that love you, but unlike me, you also have some haters. And sometimes you don't even know the haters you have. Because I don't know all my haters. I think some of them are pretty loud, but there's probably just people that just don't like me because they don't know me and they heard something about me. But you also have some folks out there that don't like you only because they don't know you. It's only because when they see you talking about someone bad. And look, sometimes like the product comparisons, cool, that's cool. But when you get into personal attacks on people, then it's just negative. And so whenever you're doing something like that, it just takes away from positive energy. You know what I mean? And it's not that everybody doesn't do it, but you do it pretty gregariously. You do a good job of it online. And you know what? It gets a lot of likes and attention. But it
actually doesn't. People think it does. Like none of those videos ever trade. Like they don't bring revenue. They don't
monetize. That's the key word. They don't monetize.
They don't. And it even doing like everybody thinks that you do it for attention and you do it for no. They don't bring new followers. They don't bring subscription. They don't bring money. They when I do it, I intentionally do it. And they bring haters. That's the only thing they do. Yeah, you get attention and discovery a little bit, and you build your reputation for being bold and someone who speaks his mind. But that's about it. You don't do it. Like my top 10 videos, none of them are negative videos. It's all guides, like shingle guide, who makes the best siding, best and worst gutter covers. Those are my top videos, not fake guru video.
Yeah, I would, and I'm not saying just because I was in one of them. I'm just saying in general.
Sure.
It's just anytime you spend your time, it's like me. If I spend my time, there's so many times I could have sued somebody for something. But I know in my head, 25 grand, it's 6 months of my life to sit and so I immediately, I probably wouldn't do that, although I might threaten them. Or chasing a dysfunctional relationship or whatever it is. I made it, especially this last year. I mean,
Block it.
I made a decision. I got a 3-foot wall around me, and like anything remotely, if it could be my own mom. My mom gets a little. Oh, hopefully you're not playing. I should see this, but sometimes they can be emotionally draining, and sometimes I'll cut even family members if they're getting too much in my energy space. I'm not gonna cut them off forever, but I will remove them from that space. Hey, look, you can call me in a couple days because I'm not into this. Whatever it is, I got an energy field around me. So anything that's negative. Now, if I'm expelling energy, chasing someone, fighting someone, arguing with someone, and believe me, I've done it my whole life. I've fought with people, but it's energy away from creating, and creating takes positive. This is just a different mindset. You know what I mean? And I like to create stuff. Like I want to focus on that movie. I want to focus on things. So I try not to focus on anything that's, not to say I'm perfect. I still do dysfunctional things sometimes. I still do wrong things. But what I'm saying is I try to spend I protect my energy. And that means I can't expel negative energy either. You know what I mean? Although I do sometimes. I'm probably bipolar. I'm probably tripolar. I'm OCD, ADD, tripolar. I mean, I got a lot of things wrong with me. But sometimes I get real angry over little things. I probably yell at Frankie too much sometimes. Right, Frankie? Frankie, why? I mean, but you can spend all this time, all of a sudden you're sitting there and you realize I'm really that upset because, a banner didn't come out the right way in this way. I mean, but you can spend a lot of, so I'm still capturing myself from those things. But you might be in it, yours might be different, but I'm just saying, whatever it is, you just got to, focus on more positive results. It allows you to be more creative, at least for me.
Oh, great advice.